Welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Eric Bowling. When you don't have an argument, just talk louder. That's what the Democrats are doing with the blessing of their leader, President Obama. Liberals are backed into a corner. Union membership is at historic lows, and union leaders are moving aggressively to protect their jobs, their own jobs. Listen to Jimmy Hoffa desperately resorting to using the language of violence.
We got to keep an eye on the battle that we face, a war on workers. And you see it everywhere. It is the Tea Party. And you know there's only one way to beat and win that war. The one thing about working people is we like a good fight. And you know what? They got a war. They got a war with us. And there's only going to be one winner. It's going to be the workers of Michigan and America. We're going to win that war. President Obama, this is your army. We are ready to march. Let's take these son of a bitches out and give America back to America where we belong. Thank you very much.
Take out the sons of bitches. Hoffa ought to know better. His own father, also named Jimmy Hoffa, vanished after meeting with the mob leader. President Obama addressed the same crowd just a few minutes later. Did he take the opportunity to rebuke Hoffa's extreme remarks? Nope.
We're thrilled to be joined by so many other friends. Teamster President Jimmy Hoffa.
Why didn't the president condemn the union attack on the Tea Party and the GOP? Maybe because his own vice president was right next door in Ohio stoking union members and blasting conservatives.
Don't misunderstand. Not a joke. Not a joke. Not an applause line. You are the only folks keeping the barbarians in the gates.
Barbarians at the gate. Take them out. SOBs, what's this all about? The head of the Democratic National Committee dodged Hoffa's violent remarks today and instead attacked Fox News on Fox and Friends this morning. Take a listen to this.
The president called
That's right,
for
and I've
civil
called for
and honest
civility as well.
discourse. Now the White House is saying nothing,
Right.
and as head of the DNC, I think a lot of people would love to hear a response to taking sons
Really,
of
Gretchen,
bitches out.
how many times have you called out the coarse language at Tea Party rallies on this network?
Plenty.
Blame the Tea Partiers. So first threaten to take out the Tea Partiers and then blame them for inciting the threats in the first place. This is some weird and dangerous stuff going on here. Joining me now by phone is friend of Follow the Money, Amy Kremer, co-founder of the Tea Party Express. Amy, when you, by the way, thanks for being here. I'm sure you're in high demand today, but appreciate your time. So when you heard the comments, when I heard them, I was in the car, I was listening on satellite radio, and I said, oh, I had the people at Fox cut the sound because I thought it was so unbelievable that this man would go on a podium on television in front of thousands and not millions of people who are watching and in the audience and say these things about the Tea Party. What's your response to Jim Hoffa?
Well, thanks for having me, Eric. I think this is absolutely inexcusable. And the fact that he was doing this when he was introducing the president, I mean, it is appalling. I introduced Sarah Palin yesterday in Manchester, New Hampshire. Can you imagine if I had said something like that? I mean, they would be pounding the Tea Party relentlessly. We're under attack constantly, and the reason we are is because we're a threat to their agenda. But you know what? This cannot be tolerated, and we are calling on the president and Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the other leaders in the Democratic Party to denounce this.
Right. Amy, I have to tell you, after I did the segment, I did it on Fox News, and we talked about it, and Media Matters immediately called me out specifically, called Fox out also, saying that there was selective editing on the clip, on the comments that came out of Mr. Hoffa. And I have to tell you, it wasn't selective editing. The more you play of it, the more violent the rhetoric got. But here's my point. Last night, I'm going through some of the newspaper articles about that discussion, about that clip. And it turns out that the Teamsters spokesperson, I can't remember her name, it was in the Detroit Free Press, actually came out and said, it didn't call Fox or myself out for selective editing, said that Mr. Hoffa made those comments because America was angry. So there was no backtracking on selective editing in it whatsoever. Where was he coming from?
Well, you know what? We're all angry. We're angry about the direction of the economy is going, the problems that we're facing in Washington, but that is no excuse to incite violence. And that is exactly what Jimmy Hoffa did yesterday. He called for inciting violence on everyday average Americans, and it is totally inexcusable.
Right. And it went on, and I don't know if you heard the intro we did right before we had this interview with you. We went through Mr. Hoffa's comments, then Mr. Obama, and I was waiting for Mr. Obama to say, hey, calm down here a little bit, guys. He didn't do that. And then we cut to Joe Biden calling conservatives barbarians and thanking the crowd for keeping the barbarians at the gate. More and more rhetoric. What's going on here? Are they that afraid of us, of you?
Absolutely they are, Eric, and I'll tell you exactly why. Look at what we just accomplished. Conservatives coming together, working together up in Wisconsin. That was ground zero for the 2012 election cycle with these, public employee unions, and we won. They were able to keep that Republican-controlled Senate there so that Walker's, legislation couldn't be reversed. They are desperately afraid of us, and, this is ridiculous. We should be able, that's what this democracy is about. We should be able to work together, and we should be able to deal with these issues at the polls with our votes. That's how we should be dealing with them, not for this rhetoric inciting violence.
All right,
Amy.
It is
inexcusable.
Thank you for joining us again. I just want to point out, during Mr. Obama's speech that followed Mr. Hoffa's introduction, he mentioned sharing the prosperity 3 times and also referenced the collective bargaining agreements that they're so important. They're so important to the Democrats. They say thank you very much to Amy Kremer. All right, after his speech touched off a firestorm, Teamster President Jim Hoffa fled to the safe harbor of liberal talk show host Nancy Skinner. Nancy, when you spoke to Mr. Hoffa, did he have any idea of the firestorm that he had created just, I guess, minutes before with that introduction to Mr. Obama?
He was not introducing the president. A local UAW female president, the first black, local, introduced the president of the United States.
Nancy,
and to the substance of your question.
It was the same venue. It was the same podium. He spoke before the president stepped up to the exact same podium.
Let me express it. Let me get to that. So I heard that whole speech. Everyone's pulling the end of it, the sons of bitches out, and saying that's it. Listen, I will tell you what, talk about extremists. I mean, where was Amy when Sarah Palin had crosshairs on congressional seats and a congresswoman got shot? I mean, this is the rhetoric.
First of all, the crosshairs that you're referencing, Nancy, the crosshairs were on a website that Sarah Palin had targeting different districts, which were there before Giffords got shot. Let's be honest. That's exactly what happened.
And nearly killed. Okay, so Eric, to the substance of what he did, this is all, now you're going to use this to not get to what the point is and what the feeling was in that crowd, which is the extreme actions of the Tea Party to hold the debt ceiling hostage, downgrade our credit rating, when we have, in Michigan, almost 12% unemployment. We're ground zero. Our manufacturing jobs got shipped overseas, and they are taking away
here, Nancy. Please stay on the topic. The topic is Jim Hoffa, thug, union thug, calling out the Tea Party, saying things like, let's take them out, inciting war, saying they're the sons of bitches.
He is not his father.
Allow me, please.
You cannot call him a union thug. You know, those are the tricks of the past. And the president came out and said, we got to come together. That's his position. And Amy said we have to come together. Well, what has the Tea Party done to come together to help the average middle-class American who has lost their income? And that was the anger you saw in that crowd yesterday. What has the Tea Party done? They won't compromise
Earth to Nancy.
An ounce.
Someone
nothing.
Get into that Detroit studio. Nancy, listen. Mr. Hoffa is basically calling himself a union thug by inciting war. The rhetoric, the stepped-up rhetoric. Please don't say that he's not inciting war and crime and hate and all. He's awful here. The Tea Party doesn't do that,
We're
Nancy.
talking about the fight. The Tea Party says, take America back. Read between the lines on that. You know what?
Take America back through the voting booth.
Well, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about organizing and taking away the right to collective bargaining in Wisconsin, and what they're trying to do is essentially saying, you know, Detroit and the auto industry made the middle class.
Are you friends with
and
Hoffa?
now the Tea Party is trying to basically strip them and blame them.
Are you friends with Jim Hoffa?
You know what? I'm in based in
Do you
Detroit.
know Jim Hoffa?
A friend of all labor.
Okay.
Of course I do.
Okay, here's my offer. I will box him for charity. We'll each put up $10,000, and the winner gets to pick the charity that the 20 grand goes to. Pass it along, the offer to him. Will you please?
If he comes on the show?
No, I'll just box him for charity. And if anyone else that wants to put in money, that's fine too. It'll all go to charity of my choice versus charity of his choice. You can send that invitation along to him.
His choice will be to restore the average middle class wage.
Right.
And
well, he's a tough guy, right? Okay,
jobs
so I'll box him for charity.
in America.
Nancy, we're going to have to say thank you. We're going to have to leave it right there. Join me now.